That was weird. I went to switch categories and it didn't crash just my stream, but it crashed my whole fucking computer. That shows you how rarely I actually switch categories. I guess the only time I really do it these days, because I always do just one now. Like I only have time for one category normally, is on Friday when I do the little bundled PvZ thing. Or I do PvZ hard mode and then PvZ heroes, which is very much by sheer coincidence. Bjorn is back. Want a beautiful burly bear. Don't make me waste my 10k gold, because I was even about to say it that I have enough for another 10k draft, which I might. Yeah, I don't even like how he looks. I'll take a dinosaur, but I kind of missed my chance maybe to get one during the actual dinosaur expansion. But I have like a dinosaur cosmetic for every level. I'm a dinosaur myself. I have the Gishath avatar, and then I have the card back with like the pterodactyl on it and stuff. So I'm just missing one. We get the little skull dead emoji if we want. All like Tokyo Japanese themed or something. I don't even know what this is. But yeah, sometimes the lands are pretty cool. Oh, that's actually badass. What is that thing in the front? That does actually look pretty creepy. Another Tim Burton-esque card back, but not really. Howl Tooth Hollow, more like Sleepy Hollow, directed by Tim Burton. Yeah, I almost want some forest lands that look a little better. But no, we have enough to do another draft. I won't do it this time. What I've been doing the last couple episodes is I've been doing a little Permadeath Deck Round Robin, because maybe I've run out of ideas for what to do. So we lost like what to even play as. So we're doing timeless mode, and so we're going through every single one of these timeless decks clearly. So what did we play recently? We played Nest Birds. There was one other one that we played, and now I can't remember what it is. That we had lost with, but we can just go through all these. Some of these I didn't even make myself, but they're just like ones that it gives you, whatever this format is. I'm trying to remember what the other one was though that I played, because that should count. Maybe it was this one. I wish I could. You would think they'd be in order based on the ones that you played them as, right? Because that's the reason why this one's at the top. We lost is that, so we'll see out of all these which one does the best, I guess, between them. Right, which one goes on like the longest streak. So it's going to be a best of 3, and if we lose the best of 3, not if we lose a game within the best of 3, but if we lose the best of 3 overall, obviously, then we have to move on to the next one. And the ranks are kind of irrelevant, so the further we go, the decks that we played then will have an unfair disadvantage, because, you know, it's like, I don't even know what's going to be in some of these. It's going to be an unfair disadvantage because you obviously have a case where you can't really, like, you can't do anything about it, because you'll be a higher rank and face higher ranked opponents just by sheer success of the previous deck, so it's almost unfair.
I'll entertain your challenge.
That's one mechanic I really haven't used in this game much at all. Not even that I dislike it too much, but it's the fucking planeswalkers. Whenever a samurai you control or you control all attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Fine. Deal 2 damage to the target. Haste equipped creature gets +1/+1. Here, maybe we'll just beat on the planeswalker for a little bit.
You can't uproot me.
We have the type advantage. Fire is super effective on grass, so we should have done double damage. It's hilarious how contrived that mechanic is when you actually think about it, because it's like you're taking a card game where it's like it's already RNG based, and you know certain matchups are going to favor or not favor one another, like, oh, control versus aggro, you know, control has an advantage or such and such, but you're gonna make it even worse because you're just like, oh, fuck you, you get to, when a samurai, okay, let's just do the samurais together. I'm not even gonna bother reading what these do. If we die, we die. Target creature you control, fine. Wait, what? I guess I probably should read a little bit what I'm doing.
You'll pay for your treachery.
Oh yeah, that's not even really worth it to do. Not that I'm deliberately trying to throw here, but some of these decks I don't even know what they are, so maybe I shouldn't do that. Like, I shouldn't throw so hard. But yeah, like, do I even want to play as this? Am I even going to enjoy it? Are these even going to be good? But that question is kind of less pertinent, because what I use normally isn't really that good either. It's good enough to get to platinum with one of my older versions of one of these green decks. But I guess I can't even call it like a gimmick deck, though, because it might be... At least at the beginning, I could have said, oh, it's the best that I can actually make. Whenever creature you control attacks alone, exile top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. We can do that. But attacking alone is kind of not happening anyway. Deals 2 damage. Why don't we just do that?
I won't just wither and rot.
Whenever attacks alone gets +1/+1, but it'll get +2/+2 then because of that. Which still doesn't matter because you can still just fucking trade in. It's really hard to figure out like how this game would have been in some earlier state though, because, well, first of all, this game doesn't even encompass all the cards in the history of Magic, but even if it did, it feels kind of like, I don't know, it's just hard to determine. So this game kind of needs an old school format, not unlike what we're seeing in classic mode and twist mode and all these kind of other things. And you might say, well, you can still play those same decks that people would have played then, right now, but you can't actually see what it would have been like because everybody's still going to be using all this jacked out, try hard new shit. Sacrifice Alpha Samurai. He gains indestructible to end of turn. Not really worth it. If a creature dealt damage would die by a source you controlled would die, exile instead. This should still work. If he chooses to block, it's a trade. Or in fact, it's still a trade. Fuck. That's the second time we thought the buff might save us, but it doesn't. Okay, that's fine. Wait, why did he even have to do it with both, though? Couldn't he have just done it with the 4/3 and that would have been good enough? Or did we get some bonus? I don't know. I'm being very lazy about even paying attention to any of this, but watch, we'll still win. The epic bronze ranked matchup.
I take no counsel with trespassers. Fight or leave. Our magic bears fruit.
And yeah, the Planeswalkers are the real personality of this game because the avatars don't have any, which is a real shame, even though some of them are the exact same. You can use her as an avatar, I think, or at least a lot of them are like that. Elspeth or something. You get to, I don't know if it's worth it to really do that. We're not like in a bad spot. Their hand's kind of burnt out and stuff too. Although so is mine. Whenever it attacks alone. So that's not really going to happen here. Sacrifice it, indestructible. Group creature gets +1/+1 in haste. There's nothing really happening with this position. Whenever Samurai Warrior attacks alone, you may pay 1. If you do attach it, it gets +2/+1. None of this shit is really going to do anything. It's like, this is going to set a new standard. This is going to be even worse than the Gimmick theme decks I normally use. This is just one sort of default base starting deck or something that you got. And I don't even dislike red that much, but there's just nothing I can do. I don't care. Doesn't mean we can't still win the best of 3, but this deck was just not really very enjoyable. It's like, yeah, we're playing on the board like I often like to do, mid-range style, but it doesn't matter because everything was garbage anyway. You know, just simplify it so you don't have to rely on other synergies and crazy stuff. Just be like, I want to play a 5-mana 10/10 and just fuck it. Now if you'd say, oh, well, you could have removal for it, but you could have removal for anything ever. So it's like, I'd rather deal with that than something shitty like a 5-mana 5/5. So that's like one of those stupid arguments people make. They'll be like, well, the argument against like the Gigantosaurus thing is the fact that, well, you can use removal on it. But that's a high level criticism. It's still a good problem to have, you know, for the value. So it's better than most other things in that same scenario, unless you're going to talk about effects and stuff. Wait, just do that, do that. Just play the thing that you can afford to play on curve. That's what I'm used to doing in a lot of these decks, or at least that's more of a Hearthstone thing. Like where I just kind of have these very simplistic decks. I'm watching on my phone and my delay is so extreme that it's like showing me the last game. Like I just queued in, or maybe it's not. I can't even tell. Yeah, I think that's the first game that I just played. It's that badly delayed. I doubt it would be like that for everybody, but... Exile target card from graveyard. If it was a permanent, put a +1/+1. If it was a permanent card. Oh, fuck, but I did that at a time where I didn't have anything in there. Equip, okay. The 3/1, that's fine. Lion Sash, lost to a belt. Equipment Cat. Work Wood Chandler at the beginning of combat. If you control L, if you gain XX, where X is the number 4 you control.
We will endure all
But that's a lot of irony. I often end up generating more mana from my minions than from my actual land. So as much as I love green, I don't actually feel like a card like that would suit me too much because I wouldn't actually have that much land, period. Reconfigure 2 attached to target creature you control. Why don't we just do that? You could trade in if you really want. This guy really loves that Planeswalker. Okay, fine. Exile it. That doesn't really make too much of a difference to me, but that is kind of good. 4-2. Fine. We could trade in if we have to. Yeah, this is like a lazy expansion for me with this game because normally I at least trying to get the stupid cosmetic at rank 35, but here I have no interest in even doing that because so it'll break my streak of 2 expansions in a row, I think, of having done that because one was for the Tim Burton card back, one was for the whatever, the Gis hat that I'm currently using. But now here, the best we would have is that like that Lilith,
Our magic bears fruit.
which I think is actually a card back. It's not even a avatar. But I don't really care that much about her. That really defines how much effort I would put into basically just doing daily quests every time. Everything else is kind of irrelevant. Deals 3 damage to target creature Planeswalker. You're gonna have way too much with her, but conjure a card named Regal Force onto the battlefield. Double Strike, Disturb. Like all these cards are just garbage though. Like what are you trying to work towards, dude? This is too slow, poor value, not my style at all. It's a very like identity confused deck. Although he's burning out of cards pretty easily too, but it just doesn't matter sometimes. What is this? Regal Force. 5/5. Enters the battlefield, draw a card for each green creature you control. It's not really that crazy. That's not even that good of an effect. Like, I mean, you're getting a 5/5 for basically free, but... Target a creature. Okay, go here. Now this should still work because... Oh no, it's double strike, not first strike. Never mind. Whatever. I told... Or no, it is. It still works. Wait, I thought it didn't work like that. I thought I was right, then I thought I was wrong, then apparently I'm right again. Yeah, I don't know at what point we would segue from this game to still another version of Magic, because I would still keep the category around. I'll do this Monday Magic thing maybe till the end of time, but I don't know how else to do it. I'd have to look at like some manual fan-made thing, or... Doesn't mean I have to end the series either altogether, but I almost want to see what that's like. Just either really earlier versions of the game,
Harmony with nature is
some
our
other
greatest
form of it
strength.
that's out there. It's a real shame that they've missed that opportunity though with a game like this, because you could easily just... Yeah, let's just go phase, who cares? But no, they missed that opportunity with this game in the sense that they could easily encompass that. Either overall just have like older formats available as an option, or just represent the whole game totality, like have more cards, if not all the cards from the history of the game. And you might say, oh, so many of them are outdated, so why bother? But that's the point, is like, what would be the harm in putting them in there just as the option? Or, oh, they'll lead to like busted synergies and it'll be broken, but then, you know, that's not the fault of simply having a format that allows them, like this timeless format or historic format. It would be more a case where you're able to basically... Why do the decks actually seem worse in this format? Like what my opponents are using than normal. Why would timeless be worse than historic? It should just be just as good, if not better, as far as what it allows you to use. And why do I never remember seeing the timeless format there? Like until a couple episodes ago.
We blossom with nature's magic.
Okay, we'll kill her just as a moral victory, but we lost to that one in a pretty anticlimactic way, but I don't mind because I didn't like that deck at all, and actually a lot of these might be similarly boring like this. Even this much of a structure, like, oh, you're supposed to play it a particular way, but I just don't care. Like, I don't want to play it a particular way. And it's not that good even if you were to do that. as much as people would say, you know, oh, card games have such infinite variety and different customization and this and that, they'll also play the same meta deck over and over, the same way over and over, against the same decks over and over. Like, that's what it turns into, but it doesn't have to be like that. The whole fun of it is mixing things around and coming up with what people would then call, oh, busted synergies or something, you know, that breaks the game. But if you're creative enough to go through the whole history of the game and look at all 80,000 cards or whatever it is, then you'd be able to... I should actually get a solid figure for that. Like, what is the X number of cards that it actually has? Magic, the Gathering, total cards. Currently more... Oh, maybe I'm wrong with the number that people always give me. More than 27,000 unique Magic cards, to which hundreds are added each year. Cards are sold in a variety of languages and products, including booster packs. Counted the original total cards of Magic the Gathering ever made. So what is it? That tells the number. He's just bragging about counting it. Oh, why did somebody say they were more closer to 80,000? Like how this game has like 10,000 and that's only like X percentage. That would be pretty close then. But see, a lot of the cards in this game are also not, or at least some of them are made just for this. Spellweaver, what do you think I am? A Malagos role player over here? But basically, that means this would have almost half the cards, so that's actually not too bad. Right, if there's like over 20,000. But no, I mean, I would have just made it 1-to-1, just put every single one in there. But instead of doing that, they would rather make their own cards, which makes no sense at all. You'd rather make your own custom cards just for this game, right, that are unique to it, than to try to... Fuck off, man. I don't like blue, dude. You'd rather make your own cards than just include the cards that were already there, or you could obviously do both, but it just makes you question why you would even want to do that. Yeah, I don't even like hybrid decks, period, but especially if it involves blue, or that's the ultimate. Combine my two least favorite colors, blue and white, and you get an absolute shit hybrid thing. You know, I could tolerate doing like black and green, or maybe green and red or something. It's got to involve green. Or like I've done the green and blue, but it's just cosmetic blue because I like hexproof as a mechanic as much as I hate. I mean, I'll look even worse here than I normally do because I don't even know what any of these fucking cards do. And I'm not even going to bother to read them, I guess. A Braid does 3 damage to target creature, destroy artifacts. It's going to be all these mechanics that I don't like or that I don't use, like removal or spells or anything besides good value minions. Enchantments and equip cards, like that last one was kind of like that. This guy gives green a bad name of the whole healing buff shenanigans that it is. Okay, so this guy's a higher rank at least, which means this could be even worse, although that last guy's deck wasn't that good. 3 damage to creature probably would be worth it. This is a pretty cool pet, right? Oh, you keep doing that, or am I causing that to happen? I'm not like trying to click on you, I'm just clicking in your vicinity. You got a bigger hitbox than a fucking Dark Souls boss over here. Windswept Heath. That's the one bug of this game that I hate so much though. If you tab out, it mutes the music. Even if you put the option play audio while minimized, it does, like, it technically does that, but look, it'll take a second, right? It'll delay it for a second, and that doesn't happen like with any other game, so it's obviously the game's fault. It's amazing how I would have said that the first time I played this game. I would have complained about that, and like, if even I can see it that quickly, how could they not notice that as a developer, like, as to fix that? If you tab out and yet you still want to play the music in the background, and you might think, oh, it hardly, like, why does it matter? It's not a big deal. But it matters at least for this extent, like, where if you're streaming it, because you'll hear the audio stop for a second, so it sounds kind of awkward. And you'll wonder, kind of like, why did that happen? But, oh, it's because I tabbed out. But you wouldn't even know I tabbed out because I'm not going to show. Like, it's only showing the game because it's game capturing, but... Or, you know, I never used to use game capture for so many things. I would always just use display capture, like, back in the day. And it would normally not be an issue, but it's traditionally better to do it anyway. But yeah, this is like returning to my roots a little bit with just kind of fucking around with either different decks or even not really caring about, like, we're not really working towards anything, even though overall in the course of this playthrough we're not really working towards anything either, just trying to get the best collection we can, and then we'll try to get to, I keep saying rank 50 because I got PvZ heroes on my mind, like get to mythic rank or whatever, but we can do that later. And I love that advice that people always say when you first play a game like this, oh, you should play in standard, but it's so stupid because that's exactly the opposite of what I would want to do. Play in historic or play in timeless or any of these kind of other modes, wild, because you get to see just such a better variety of cards, and you could theoretically still play. So you get one option but not the other. You could, any deck you can play in standard, you could play in wild or historic, but any deck you can play in historic and wild, you can't play in standard. So why not just open that up? You can still do the exact same thing, but you'll just see more variety of stuff in other ways. But then again, people always adhere to the sort of illusion of balance that, oh, haha, it's going to lead to something like, you know, broken interactions, and clearly there's none of those in the meta in current standard. Meanwhile, everybody will use the same exact thing and pretend like it's not broken until it finally gets fixed, and then they'll complain about it. Like, there's a reason why some decks dominate the meta, and it's usually because of some balance issue, right? It's just that somebody comes up with it, like, oh, we come up with this idea to combine these cards. So maybe people feel better about it, like, if it's intended. It's like a super team in sports. Like, if players put it together, people hate it. But if a team put it together, oh, it's fine that you drafted Magic and or you traded Kareem to the Lakers, and then you draft Magic and you draft Worthy. Like, oh, that makes it okay. But like the same thing here. If the game intends for an interaction to work a certain way, like they come up with this keyword and they come up with all these cards together that are meant to be used together, that's fine. But if you take some dumb shit card from 10 years ago in Magic's history and you combine it with a modern card and make some crazy interaction, it's like, oh, that's broken because it wasn't meant to work that way. Just because you were creative enough to come up with it, you get penalized for it. It's like gaming the system like in real life. Like, oh, you do something that wasn't intended. You know, you have freedoms until you don't, until you come up with some idea, or you do something that breaks the whole structure of something. Oh, now you're not allowed to do it, right? Like, you come up with some medicine that cures every disease. It's like, oh no, he made this illegally. He made this in his basement using some you know, dangerous technique, and we gotta test it and make sure we get it up to code so that we can take credit for it and sell it for billions of dollars. Like, there's always like that illusion. You can do whatever you want until it disrupts some established structure. By the analogy for meta in a card game, but that's almost what it is. Like, you're allowed to be as creative as you want and come up with all these different deck ideas, which often lead to crazy interactions, but not when you take it too far, or not when you combine stuff from different levels, because that's the whole beauty of it. They wouldn't have intended for those two cards to be played together, right? Because they hide behind the standard format, but that sort of shows you the overall flaw, even as hard as that might be to manage, the overall flaw of their card design. Like, oh, these cards can't work together, or it's too strong. Because even though, you know what I mean, like, you made them at the time without thinking about that, but it's like, I don't know, it's a fault of your own design that you would have two cards like that would break the game. Rather than that, we'll hide from your own flawed design and just say, oh, we're going to restrict you to the most recent ones, and then we can kind of keep pretending like we're balancing it and act like that makes everything perfect. I love how that's my biggest known following, though. People know me for chess more than anything now, which I guess makes sense now, but even at the beginning, like, that's part of how I got affiliate again, and that's how, whatever, like, everything started with chess somehow. And I played it kind of even as an offshoot even then. Not even like, oh, on my old channel I would sometimes play it here and there, but even now I play it like that. When I first came back, I guess I've been playing it more now, but when I first came back, I would play it to take breaks from other shit. So imagine that. Imagine how washed up or bad you must be at something, or just how unfortunate the circumstance might be, that like the main kind of content you're doing, whatever it is, like a hard mode, permadeath, something that I would do, that would get less views, and then I would take a break and play chess or something to take a, you know, whatever, because I failed it, or because I just need some time off of it, and then I get more views and more acknowledgement for that. So it's like, that's so stupid because it's a lower standard. So people always have rewarded this kind of thing, where, you know, oh, like, you'd rather do react content or just chatting content or something so random like that that would they'd rather see that than actually something at a high level, whatever that might be. So even the act of me playing chess is not at a high level to be self-critical. Like, I'm garbage. I was playing at like a 1200 rating then, 1500 rating at most, like kind of like what I'm still doing now, but it wasn't anything really worthwhile. But it is like maybe a community that's very like desperate for attention, to the extent that, like, dude, I don't know what these decks are. Like, I'm really not even enjoying them, but I'll indulge the whole permadeath format. But maybe I should only do the ones that I've actually used before, not the ones that are pre-made for me here. But no, like, people are so passionate and desperate for attention for the community. I think Pokimane said something to that effect. Like, oh, you know, I've never seen people so happy and so validated that they, I don't know. It is the ultimate sort of, you want to be the wiser kind of thing. You've studied a board game for years of your life, or whatever. You've studied something for years of your life and you're really good at it. So now you want to show off to other people and not even really talk down to them, but you want to show off and share all the knowledge you have, which is a natural tendency. But it's just kind of funny because it's like, it's so blatant with some things, right? That people obviously, I mean, that's part of what whole Twitch chat culture and stuff like that is. You can stream a game. That's why people love first playthroughs so much. Right, I just like playing stuff blind because that's the authentic way that you would probably naturally do it. But the reason why it can be so good sometimes for people is like, either you act dumb and you're constantly baiting people to come in and either it's funny, like, oh haha, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or you want to bait them to give you advice. Right, so that's such a strong form of content, is just that people will live vicariously through that, and they constantly want to act like they know better than you do, which is fine, but it's coming from a positive place. But it's maybe flawed in two ways. One, you want to experience the game blind and just have your own natural experience with it, but on the other hand, you want to, you know, they want to act like, oh haha, look at all these things they know that you don't know, but they maybe only know them in hindsight. Like, they wouldn't have known that the first time they played the game, or they maybe have looked things up over time and things like that. And there's definitely this culture that's been very strong in the last decade, but maybe even the last couple of years more so than ever, where like it's normal to look stuff up and use add-ons and guides and things like that and watch videos even on your first playthrough of a game. A game could have just come out and you are already ruining it by like, oh, let's speed run and meta strats and stuff. Like, you're not letting it really have any permanence to it. Like, it's just already, it's old news. Like, Pal World's out for a week and oh, we're already doing speed runs. Again, that's fine if you want to do that and that's your, you know, your preference, but just it feels like that's treated that way across the board. Like, oh, it's already old news and we already have somebody who's beaten the game in 5 minutes using some speedrun hack trick. It's like everything just gets consumed too quickly that way. Which again is not even gatekeeping people from theoretically doing that, but it just feels like somehow people look at that and that trivializes everything. Like, somehow this is a bad way of doing it, because not only do I not necessarily like these decks and what they're doing, but I'm also doing it in such a way that, you know, like, I don't know what they're doing either. It's not even that I don't like it. So I should maybe play more so as the ones that I thought this would be a little more fun, like trying all these decks in my collection, but some of these are just garbage. In a way, again, not even garbage functionally, because I have plenty of those that I like, but it has to at least be something I made myself, maybe. I'm not really in the mood, I guess, to do these random ones. But, so maybe I'll go backwards. I'll go from the top and work my way, and then maybe I can do these some other time, but the point is these are mostly not even good, I don't think either. These are like some deck recipes that they just give you at various points or something, or that you can like buy when you're in the middle of a draft using them. This makes it seem like I'm a bot, like I'm just playing stuff randomly with no regard for what it is. It's neither day or night. It becomes day as he enters the battlefield. Oh, if it's okay. Isn't that how these cards work anyway? Like, if it's not day or night, it introduces the mechanic of it being day or night. Their decks don't even seem really that good, these last couple of people. It's just, mine are obviously worse. Like, look at how many interactions and how much work people do to do things. It's like, it's not even really worth it. It's just, Your board is so pathetic. That's the only thing I judge you by is your board. And again, the longer a card game is out, the further and further you drift away from that relevance. Like, you would never, you know, it's much more important in its initial state normally. Where board control and you're just playing for that, and it's less about effects and removal. Or at least the removal you see is going to be more limited. There's only going to be the same ones over and over that you're using. Okay, look, we're obviously going to lose. I don't even really care about these decks. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast whenever you instant and sorcery spell. But I don't like casting fucking spells anyway. Okay, I'll go backwards. That way at least we get to play as some of these ones that I've made myself. But no, we should almost do maybe a draft next time. Just to make up for the fact that I did so shitty in the other one. I want to do like a 10k draft, but nothing I got offered in this draft was that interesting to me. Like, or at least maybe I didn't look through them too thoroughly because I always commit to like one color. So like, even if there is some cool legendary, it'll be a different, like I go in, I want to do black and green, and then I'll just ignore, you know, a legendary card for something else. But no, like with the last expansion, I only did the one draft, obviously with Zixalan. And I got like Galta, the Stampede Tyrant, and all these kind of cool, awesome cards. So it's just kind of weird that you know, it's such a night and day difference. Okay, please just hurry up, bro. Kind of deliberately throwing just to get done with these decks that I don't like at all. But yeah, so, some of these things that they're using are like so slow and contrived. It's like, what are you really working towards? At least my style of play is very clear and defined. Like, you know what I'm trying to do, either board control or something of the sort. Yeah, it took me like 2 weeks to do those quests because I didn't even really care about them. So we had done Nestbirds in that one. I don't think I had done any of these. So how many decks have I actually made in this? That actually seems like very few. Or why don't these even work? I don't get it. Non-format cards, but timeless is supposed to be every card in the game. Like, what do you mean, dude? Some of these were ones that I made too. What could it be? Historic Artisan Change. So what does it mean though? Or now I don't even get to see what. That's why I probably should have cloned it. What it was that was non-format. I don't get it. Like, okay, let me see this one. What could be non-format for this? Clone and change. Set to Lord of the Rings Brawl. But what does it mean as far as... I don't get it. The following issues, card is not legal. So what is the card that's not legal? How do you tell? It's not showing me. Save and exit anyway. So that at least shows that it cloned it. Invalid decks. Wildcard. Oh, that's just showing me the thing that you would have to craft it from square one. The big three. Yeah, just like saying big minions. Of which I made almost all of my decks are about that. I'm just trying to find the ones that I actually made myself. So when it's written like this, obviously you know it's not. When it has like a fixed name, large and in charge was like the first one that I think I used ever. Because obviously I gravitated towards green instantly. I'm so confused. It's not showing me very clearly what it is that's missing in here. Like, wasn't this one that I used recently? It's set to explore. So clone and change, but they don't tell you anything. Like, that one's just like missing cards. It's gonna be very hard to even keep track of. That's why I even keep checking my VODs. Pugilist, I don't know what that is. Let's just look at some of these that are non-format cards. But how would you know? What is the non-format card? Cards not legal in this format. So how would I guess I would have to guess? Like, how am I supposed to know this? It's not showing me anything to do with it. Maybe just like they all are, or you'd have to go like one by one and just see. But even then it's hard to tell because you would have to fucking... I'm so confused. The recommended decks in the format has 15 cards in their sideboard. Wow, I'm doing the no sideboard challenge. The whole playthrough I haven't done a fucking sideboard. Or only if they like force me to, but I wouldn't actually use it. But it's saying it's not legal for the format, but it is. It just said that too. Or is this a different deck? Okay, whatever. Let's just fucking... Oh my god. It's getting confused because you have to like change the format as you go to do it, but... Okay, let's just work backwards. So the only two that we lost as that were pertinent, obviously those two are there, is Nestbirds and this one, right? So everything else I can do. Let's do this one, the big three, and then go back from Q2, Q1, whatever these are. I don't know what these names even are. I just kind of do random stuff. A person can be any kind of person or any kind of bot even. But I love how the Steam reviews on this game are so vicious. Like, I was actually kind of stunned too because I liked it so much, but it's more so the business model and things like that. Like, oh, how money can ruin everything. They don't even have a crafting feature where you can like disenchant stuff and craft it, or all these fucking stupid cosmetics and crossovers. My Little Pony and stuff would trigger people. Like, it's for all those reasons outside of the core experience of the card game itself. But the fact is, that's actually fair to still bring up. That shows you how those elements ruin it, or at least for some people. I don't personally mind it too much, or I'm even somebody who always feeds off the free-to-play mindset. Like, I've been playing this since 2022, right? Like, what, August 2022, something like that. And I've been playing it kind of sporadically, but not only have I enjoyed the experience, but I have built up probably a decent collection or a decent number of cards, which could have been a decent collection if I had cared a little bit more, I guess, about... You know, if I had cared a little bit more about actually trying to build it optimally and make like better cards. So this one's more like a black I do love this card. This is like a black toxic deck almost. I don't know what else the theme could really be to it. My stream keeps freezing on video, so I can't tell whether it's actually working or not. Then I have to fucking watch an ad on my own thing every time. Yeah, I'm ad farming. I love those kind of things that are like, oh yeah, we'll pay you to do surveys or pay you to watch ads or something. But when they know they're paying you to do it, doesn't that kind of invalidate the whole thing? Like, it's not an authentic response. Toxic is a pretty fun mechanic, and it's very like insular, but somehow it's very hard to actually get it off a lot of the time. Or what I really like is the flying element to it, because then you can cheese it that way. I always have these sort of cheese ideas that I try to apply. Like, I'll make a bunch of flying things, and it's very hard for you to prevent that flying damage, or at least I always have trouble doing that. And so therefore we get to troll you basically with that. That we're just going to hit your face the whole time. Not even going to worry about the Planeswalker. So it's not about how much damage I do, even if you have heals and all kinds of shit. It's going to just be the toxic counter itself, which there's really not much that you can do about it. I've never really seen too many cards that reduce a counter. There's normally ones that just add a counter, add whatever existing counter there is.
I've got it.
This one is not going to be very good, or it's not even a... Yeah, I put that in there because this is a toxic deck, by the way, but it's not a fucking toxic card. It just has toxic in the name. How confusing is that? And in fact, in that case, why even bother doing it? Because you can just do that. Yeah, this actually does have a pretty good theme to it. You can immediately tell when it's my deck that I just exist to troll you.
You're just
Okay, so whatever you do, you're not going to be able to get rid of those. Or again, even if there are mechanics that really reduce that, we've never really seen them. And what are the chances they're going to actually have that? I probably shouldn't ignore the Planeswalker. They're using like a fucking Planeswalker only gimmick themed deck with no minions, and the only minions that they summon will be spawns from the thing. Whenever they cast a spell, I do like that. This is something I was using even in my other one, my whole anti-spell ideation that I have. Never mind the sick picture to go along with it. Or he's just doing that to dump it before I play that. There's certain cards that represent me in a card game. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, you could show a spell canceller, and I wouldn't even say Jinzo because Jinzo is just a good card, period. But I would be willing to even play a shitty card, 1800 attack, you know, single tribute thing that nobody would ever use, and it's garbage. I'd be willing to use that just to troll people and prevent them from playing both spells and traps by trying to play that and Jinzo together. And then the other thing is, Like in this game, you could show this card, or in Hearthstone, you could show any of the evasive ones, like whatever, fucking Fairy Dragon, but it would be something more emblematic. Like, what is the best evasive card that I could really show? Sogoth, or Tyrantus, or I don't know, Lotheb even, but that's kind of still, Lotheb was always a good card just in and of itself. It's just more to show you like my approach, that whether it's good or not, I'm just willing to go the extra mile to do that. The problem is, of course, we're not getting any of this actually across. One toxic counter for all this effort. Yeah, either people would be complaining the game's inundated with bots, which is very hard for me to tell whether that is the case or not, or again, some of the business model not being able to craft, or all the other you know, microtransaction elements and how stupid some of the cosmetics actually are. For this, you would be able to actually hit him with it, but it almost just doesn't matter. Oh shit, the ultimate combo. 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. So these two combined are the ultimate troll setup here. I never have really used Hergrid herself. And if you have extra mana to do it, you can just keep doing it over and over. Again, this is more of a satisfying troll style of play than it is actually good. But she's just gonna win with the Planeswalker shit alone. I love that too, because it's like, wait, why is it letting me untap it again though? First of all, because it's already untapped, but also because of the amount of mana that you would have. I'm confused actually what happened, but look at this, dude. Wait, why aren't these things actually working? Or no, they're discarding cards more. Fuck. We're just gonna run out of stuff to play. So it's toxic in both senses, because you're trying to troll them and stop them from doing anything, but also because you literally are toxic. Choose 2 creatures controlled by the same player. They sacrifice one of them. So if I can just deal with their board, they're gonna kind of burn out, I guess, a little bit, but
Back to wandering.
doesn't really help me because I'm burnt out more than they are, because I don't have card generation, card draw, cycling, anything of the sort. That is often a characteristic of a lot of my decks too, is just they're kind of like, they're kind of in a position where you don't have a lot of staying power unless you can just get stuff to stay on the board, which usually that doesn't happen. We should always be able to do this 2 times every turn, but I mean, I don't want the game to drag out for necessarily that long. Oh shit, now you're gonna start fucking taking damage even. Which means you must have something good in your hand. Really? Fuck me. But yeah, or we could do some sort of infinite mana loop thing here somehow, where that's all you need. You just put this down and somehow generate an infinite amount of mana and just fucking keep doing it over and over the same turn. So eventually they'll run out of cards in their hand and OTK Turgid's Lantern. This was one that I only made because somebody suggested it like in a comment, so that's almost like cheating. This is supposed to be a no advice run. That one and some of the dinosaurs like a Tolly and stuff, because I'm not so much the type to look for effects. Well, I guess it didn't really work that well, but the real purpose was the toxic thing, which just didn't work because they simply had too many ways to deal with it. But that was still sort of fun to see those two down together. Actually, I think the same guy mentioned both of those, Painful Quandary and Turgid's. Although Turgid's Lantern isn't even still my style as much. It's more so I'm trying to stop them from using spells and removal. And I guess in this game, everything is a spell. So, you know, creature spell. So that's not even the point. But it does actually apply to that too. It doesn't mean that, oh, if they try to use removal, if they try to play anything, right? Or like, you know, creature spells or removal spells. I don't think enchantments and stuff really work for that, but they'll either take 5 damage or have to discard something. So we're more so trying to focus on the toxic element, but like I said, they're not going to let me actually do it until the end of the turn. Target creature gets +2/+0 when this creature it dies or is put in whatever. It's not relevant. Come on, just don't have a way to deal with this. Foretell, during your turn you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost, which is only like 1 less, so why would you even bother? But there was that annoying mechanic in this draft where you keep paying 2 to play something as a like a 2/2 placeholder, and then you get to play it later. Discard a card, then you're gonna get the toxic as well. Again, it's not a very good deck that I'm using, but at least the theme is clear, so I always enjoy that. Fuck off, man. When this creature dies or is put in exile, return it to its owner's hand. Fuck you, dude. I mean, at least it'll soak up 1 element of removal because they're so desperate to always do that at the beginning. But that means if we just get that to stay around, we'll just win the game. Come on, just let me get 1 toxic thing out there that you can't deal with, and I'd be happy with that. But the problem is by the time you play Turgid's Lantern or the other thing, right, they already have too much going, or maybe I should just get rid of these. Your opponent can cast only spells only anytime they could cast a sorcery. It doesn't really matter to me even, but you should kill that with the beetle, or that's my whole priority system. I would only do this if it doesn't have toxic, otherwise I gotta be toxic to you right in the face. Pretty cool card back. Expressive Iteration. Look at the top 3 cards. Some of the card names in this game are so overly verbose, which is kind of cool in a way, but maybe it's not necessary. Or Yu-Gi-Oh's card names, you would always wonder whether it's something like lost in translation or whether it's just like, I don't know, it's weird. Like alligator sword, oh, it must be a sword that's shaped like an alligator or made of an alligator or somehow, you know, whatever. But that's actually a creature that is an alligator that uses a sword, but it's just called alligator sword. It sounds like an equip item or something like that. There are a couple names like that that just sound kind of weird. Okay, dude. All lands lose ability except for mana abilities. So, still no toxic counters. They're pretty amazing at doing that. During your turn, you may pay 2. Okay, let's do that. It makes sense now just because I have nothing else to play then. See, even this doesn't visually match what you're trying to do. It's, during your turn, you may pay 2 and exile it from your hand face down. But, I mean, obviously, for their purpose it is, but exiling it face down would actually show the card face down. And then I could go to look at it, like spell and trap cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! You would still see them face down, even in the digital version of the game. Or what was always sad about Yu-Gi-Oh! From that extent was the company never made games themselves, right, in the digital space where you could play them to people's satisfaction. So it ends up being like,
You're just underwhelming.
it's only tap because it was about to fucking attack. At least let me do the attack first and then do it. The fuck. I don't know, it would be like, you know, you would have to play fan games, Kyber Core, Virtual Duel System, and all these other ones for years, and then you would finally get to do it. I don't get why my thing keeps fucking freezing.
The edge in this fight.
I'm just going to assume it's working. My bitrate seems to be fine. Whatever. And yeah, the one day in the week that I'm trying to do multiple categories, aside from the Friday one, where it could potentially be a longer stream, it doesn't even let me. It crashes as soon as I go to switch it. So it's like I'm just not meant to do that. Whenever a dinosaur deals damage, like, why are some of these even in there? It almost makes it seem like this is not a deck that I actually made. Or maybe it was just for the purposes of the... I'm obviously going to lose now. For the purposes of... Because I was playing it during Zixalan, so... You know, obviously that would have worked, but it's just so random. Yeah, we went from an expansion about dinosaurs to an expansion with not even a single dinosaur. Right, like I even went to look, so they're almost trolling me. As somebody who loves dinosaurs so much, it's like bootleg Ross Geller, recoils in horror. But No, it's the fact that, like how I always say, oh, they'll introduce a keyword and then they'll completely forget about the next expansion. You want to see at least that they have one or two in there, right, to just give it representation. Yeah, this sort of breaks my tradition of always streaming either in the morning or at night, because that's the easiest way for me to do it these days. Like, I still stream every day, but instead of doing it like at a fixed time or in the middle of the day, I'll do it like just before I sleep and then just when I wake up, so that whatever I do, you know, during the day, then there's like a long break. If I just did it in the morning one day, then I don't have to do it again till the following night. So it's a whole day and a half, right, between them. So it gives me like a lot of space if I have to in between to do other stuff. Obviously, it's just kind of more convenient that way. And of course it also means that they're a lot shorter than they used to be, which is unfortunate. Yeah, this is as casual of a series as Magic as you'll see, because I'm not really even trying to do anything with it. In fact, I've almost run out of ideas. Like, it's one thing, okay, I keep playing the same deck over and over, but at some point I gotta try other things. There's just so many mechanics that I just don't enjoy. I don't like the healing stuff. I don't like removal too. Like, that's a pretty broad thing to say too, removal, like as a concept, but I don't like decks that really would rely on removal because they coincide with other ideas too, like, you know, sort of a slow pace and you're going for some other contrived win condition and all these kind of things. I wouldn't really care. Okay, this person is taking way too long. Let's just do one more, assuming we would lose this one, which, you know, you can just tell. Like, this is the hand size issue. Like, you know that they have something going on and I just have nothing. And there's nothing I'm going to get that's going to rectify the situation. So even as much as we enjoyed that little interaction with the lantern, it's just not going to do me any good here.
Feel the energy of battle.
Yeah, in a way, I've become the very thing I swore to destroy. Somebody who always preached meritocracy and all these different things, and debate format to whatever extent that had value, and permadeath runs, and you're trying to do world first and push certain boundaries. Instead, I've become a filthy casual in this extent that all my secondary series that were meant to only be a break from the main thing I was doing would instead be, you know, the only thing I do now a lot of days. Like, which of my days would constitute a secondary series? Monday Magic, that would be a secondary series, like a card game, chess, board game, things like that would always fit, right, to take a break in between categories or just to end off after a long stream, something like that. So I would play things like that, like Hearthstone or chess. So Monday is a secondary series card game, Tuesday is a secondary series chess, Wednesday is technically not, but it's kind of just a random series that I wouldn't do those sorts of things either. I would do it more so in a committed way, but I guess I won't count Wednesday necessarily. Thursday would be like a main series, that's Arc. Then Friday is a main series sort of, but it's so short, the hard mode. And then a secondary series, obviously PvZ, the card game. Then Saturday is also like Wednesday, so it's kind of different because you're just playing something for the first time. And then Sunday is also a card game, so at least 4 of those are secondary series. And again, Wednesday and Saturday are kind of weird. But I guess Wednesday would be sort of a main series in the sense of the Permadeath multiplayer gauntlet, but Emerald cool, the Promised End. Some old god type of vibes with this one, but why is it the neutral card? One less you cast for each card among types in your graveyard. When you cast a spell, you gain control of any target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, the player takes an extra turn. Protection from instants. Okay, look, dude. We get the point. Although, see, at least that one was more satisfying. Those last 2 games actually show you the difference. Those last 2 sets. I lost both of them, but I enjoyed that one more because at least it was something either I made myself or at least it had some sort of other theme to it. Even if I failed to. So there's like the game within the game. I'm always trying to go for some sort of interaction. Okay, this will be the last one we do today. But no, I almost have to come up with some other ones because as much as I'd like to try all these, it's like, it just ends up being the same thing. And as much as I sometimes enjoy that, it's you know, how much of that can you really do? And the answer is, for me, I could do it till the end of time. And you might think, oh, it's only because I play it once a week, so it doesn't feel like I get burned out of it. This reminds me of the town from fucking Anthem. What's it called? Not Bastion, because that was the name of the whole planet or the whole place you were at, but I can't remember. But no, it's like, I would do that anyway, right? Like even if I played every single day, I somehow manage not to get bored of the same thing, or the variety again comes from your opponent, not necessarily from you. You could be doing the same thing over and over, or you could be using even the same cosmetics and aesthetic over and over, right? But it's still fun to see what ones they're using, so let them be the clowns and spend their hard-earned money or gold on it. But for a free-to-play playthrough, I've really spent a lot of gold on that shit that you would not have thought. It's one thing to just play every week and make sure you get the rank 35 one, because at least that's free, like the Gis hat and the Tim Burton card back and all that kind of thing. Yeah, and when I say Tim Burton card back, people would know exactly what I'm talking about too, because, you know, you kind of understand the art style behind it. It's not like, you know, whatever. What else would I call it? I guess there's a card with that appearance on it already. So they run out of ideas for card backs, and so therefore they try to basically hexproof and dinosaurs. Those are my two favorite mechanics ever. So even this is maybe some sort of attempt to do that, because the shield counter is almost like that, but not really. I could make a deck with all shield counter type things in there, and I'll waste a bunch of wild cards to do it. But no, what was I saying? You should always play the mana generators first there, obviously. I don't know, like, you would want to... You get variety basically from what other people do, is the point. Okay, that's good, that's good. Yeah, see, look, at least we got some board presence. Like, this on average is going to do better, at least to a certain extent. Then it starts to bog down with, you know, obviously, not that you couldn't still win like this, but you would have to have other interactions too, and sort of win conditions and crazy stuff. Kind of like what Galta Stampede Tyrant does, or Atali, or all those other ones that have like crazy effects to go along with them. The one ring, more like the one deck. The one deck to rule them all, because I always just fucking play the same thing over and over. This thing we can already do. Starts with a shield counter on it. Has trample as long as it has a shield counter. Okay. But this is a really old deck. The reason why they keep getting pulled to the top is because I either change them, or this is kind of overlapping with me doing the timeless format, is that I'm trying to do some of these older decks. Not even older in any sense to the game, because they might all be like that because they're all historic anyway, but like ones that I played throughout this whole experience, which a lot of them you might notice are very similar. They're not really... I haven't been this excited for a key to the archive since the Duke's Archives from Dark Souls. Haha. When the key to the archive enters the battlefield, draft a card from key to the archive spellbook, then discard a card. Yeah, card game can always be like an ancillary thing, where whenever there's a successful game series already, which is not the case with Magic at all, obviously, it almost would be the opposite, but they'll just make a card game of it. So you can make like a Dark Souls card game, a Witcher card game, which they actually did, right? Gwent or whatever, which I'm such a spoiler... I'm so anal about spoilers that I'm like, oh, I wouldn't want to play that, because it might spoil me about stuff and lore in the... Even like with the Elder Scrolls, I didn't want to do that in the series because I haven't played the series adequately. And then when I go to play the series, I ruin it by failing my permadeath challenge, first playthrough permadeath, because that's what you got to realize with that sort of thing. When I do it, right, like a first playthrough permadeath of the original Witcher, not only is that particular game on the line that if I die, I'm not going to finish that, or at least it'll be a long time before I come back and try it again, it also means that I wouldn't play the sequel. Or any of the sequels, or any other game in the series. So I not only missed out on The Witcher 1 because I died there, but also Part 2, also Part 3, also whatever else, the DLCs, the card game, all these other things. So it's a big price that I'm paying, at least in the short term. And on the flip side, if I do beat it, and I succeed at the run, it means that I basically get to cheat death as the power only one has discovered. Haha. It's like, if you did that, then basically... what do you call it? Then it would almost guarantee that I would play the sequel. The one thing I've fallen out of doing so much is story games that I almost miss a little bit, but they require maybe more of not only longer streams and my whole style kind of always dictates longer streams because it's like I always do long intros and take my time. So like my intro will be as long as the episode, the actual gameplay that I do. But the reason why that's okay, usually, oh fuck, I thought I could play both. That's usually okay because I would do a longer stream, so nobody could complain, right? If I do like a 6-hour episode and I spend the first hour doing an intro, then I'll play for 5 hours, so you can't complain because I definitely took my time and had enough to do whatever I was going to do anyway. And even the act of playing, I take my time, it's very slow, I'm reading all the flavor text, all this kind of thing. So that's a good deliberate style, but the difference is that you're basically in a position where, you know, if you're doing it like I do now, I'll still preserve the long intro, but then I'll do like an hour-long intro, like I did with that GTA Online stream. I played GTA Online for the first time in years. The first hour, half an hour, whatever is an intro, and then I only play for an hour. So then it makes you question that a little bit, like, okay, now people will complain because, oh, that's just not enough. So it would always just be a net positive, though, if you had enough time to do it. Yeah, with story games, you almost need more time that way, where you want to play it for a longer period of time, or you know, you have to get really immersed and all the details, and so you can predict stuff, you know, make your prediction like a detective game more so than just a story game, Ace Attorney style stuff, Danganronpa, Eleanor, whatever. And so you would want to play it not only for a long time, but also back to back. Both things I don't do. So if it's a short thing, then, oh, you're only playing for an hour. That's barely enough to do an intro and get immersed in it. Like, do an hour-long intro, pre-investigation review or pre-case review, but then you don't even have time to actually do the case or the trial. And then the other thing is, you would want to do it like every day or every other day so you can actually stay up to date, you know, and keep it fresh in your mind, all the details of the case and stuff like that. Whereas with, you know, if you're only doing it once a week, that doesn't really work as well for a story game, because you're, whether it's even a detective game or not, like you get immersed with the details of the story, right, and all the characters and all your analysis and whatever's gonna happen. You're not gonna remember, oh, that guy gave like a weird look, so now I think he's gonna do something, and then a week later I'll forget all about it, or, you know, it just makes it harder to appreciate those kind of things. It's almost like how you would watch a movie. You wouldn't want to watch a movie like 10 minutes at a time, or like with ads on TV even ruins it. You watch a half an hour, then you watch some ads and you forget about what was just happening, or you're not as immersed in it. You gotta watch it, you know, straight all the way through. Which, of course, that's a lot harder to do with a game. This dude's literally building like a whole fucking species over here with his fucking enchantments and lands. I wonder if it's going to lead to some OTK. But no, it's like, you would always want to do it in a straight stretch, but that's not really as understandable to do. Right? You can't play through a whole game in one sitting usually, but... Or I would never even want to do that, because as slow and deliberate as I can be, I drag shit out. But, you know, you might say, oh, haha, somebody would do that for content, that you would drag out a series or do it super slowly. But I don't even see why that would make sense, because I could just play something else then. It's not like there's a limit of games out there, right? So I'd rather just take my time. Like the way that I played Anthem was it would probably be pretty triggering to people, because it's like, I read like every little piece of text, and I talked to like every NPC between every mission. Every single time they had something new to say, or even if they didn't have something new to say, you know, I would somehow just go on a whole tangent in the town, walking around and stuff. It was the same sort of style that I would, I guess, historically do, but that's just not the kind of game you would really think of playing like that. But there was a lot of cool stuff to look at and interact with the town, or I was kind of squeezing the water from the stone to see what you could get out of it. The whole BioWare storytelling element that they obviously have there. Okay, this could be the final showdown here. We can still win 2 in a row. I might have not won like a single game in any of these matchups so far. Or even it kills my enthusiasm. Maybe not having as much time to even do permadeath challenges and things like that I would normally do. Like, oh, if I can't win this match, best of 3, or do this draft right or something, I have to delete my account, delete my collection or something. So I would do that stuff in Hearthstone all the time. I would have to like disenchant all my cards or something. The whole win condition here is not to let the game drag out for that long, which, again, would almost make you think I'm an aggro deck more so, but it's really not. It's just that's the style of play that you're forced into, either because you whatever, because of your matchup or because just of how bad your collection or cards or deck could be. It's like, oh, it's mid-range and it's good value, but that's not enough. So if you don't win early on with it, then you're going to lose no matter what. So I wasn't that intimidated by any of these decks that I went against, but the first two that I played as were kind of, again, I didn't even know what they were, so that maybe represents it pretty badly. You might think, oh, I'm too lazy to even read the cards, but I didn't even make those decks, so I shouldn't have to play as those. So I'll still do this permadeath format, but I'm not necessarily going to commit to playing as every single one of those. It'll at least be every single one that I've made or played as, in before 20 of them are all exactly pretty much the fucking same. So this is still fine. It would give me the trigger for the Keratin if I really needed it. These are not exactly the best value things, of which I probably just have similar things that are just better or less expensive for the same cost and everything. Fuck, man, you have too much removal. This is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, where he'll have nothing but removal and I'll have nothing but minions. If only they had fucking hexproof too. Or like, yeah, even I have a board and then he clears the whole board, so the little rocks, his shield counter comes into play. I should almost try that. Make a deck with like only shield counter stuff, similar to hexproof, but hexproof is just better. Not that it's the same thing, because that one prevents destruction altogether, even if it's from a minion, but usually it's going to be a fucking spell that they use. Or yeah, imagine if they add another color to Magic, like how they did the fairy type to Pokemon. Wow, what a big revolutionary moment where they add another element. After so many years, right? That was the first one, at least I think they did. It was such a big moment, and wow, we have like Flaybay or something. Or a lot of them, they just took existing Pokemon and just added the fairy tag to them. Whereas with here, this almost feels like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Turn 1 kind of moment when he starts doing this shit. But it's basically Karn the Great Creator. I thought it was that Garfield guy, Andrew Garfield or something. Not Andrew Garfield, what the fuck is his name? Who made this game? Who made Magic? And his net worth doesn't really match. Richard Garfield. You know, he sold it off for a good amount of money, but then over time it's become worth way more than that, but I get it. You know, he probably enjoyed it just sometimes feel like these people don't get what they deserve. Like Shigeru Miyamoto's net worth was only like 7 million or something. Like, what the fuck, dude? And he almost deliberately did that. It's not like, oh, Nintendo underpaid him. He had the choice. He underpaid himself, basically. He had the choice to do something more or to get more out of it, but he chose like, oh no, I want to get paid pretty much the same as my employees, because it's just a good philosophical. Imagine the restraint you would have to do that. Like, you're literally Shigeru Miyamoto. Nobody would question you. You can take whatever you want. You deserve it. But he would still say, no, I don't want it. I want to make the same as everybody else, pretty much. That's so ridiculous, but at least historically he did that. Maybe lately he's done something more, but like when he retires or something, he'll get something more out of it. But he seems like the kind of guy that just doesn't care about it, I guess.
True goodness can never be corrupted.
Activated abilities or artifacts your opponent control can't be activated, but that's an oxymoron. You already said they're activated. How does that... Activated abilities of artifacts your opponent control can't be activated. Why not just say artifact abilities? I don't know. It doesn't feel like that's written really correctly. We need to get Grammarly on the case. The most annoying fucking thing ever, because you just see so many ads for it. That could be like a reverse opposite interpretation reaction. Like, because you keep seeing an ad for something, you would go out of your way not to use it, even if you normally would, right? People always say that. Like, I'll spite you for your stupid ad that you fucking spam me with all the time by saying like, oh no, I'm gonna like boycott your product just for that reason alone. Or what's kind of an interesting thing is shuffles 3 cards from the graveyard into the library. Like, the whole auto checkout thing is becoming a big thing. Like, if you don't protest that, then years back you'll look back and say, well, you lost your job. And whether it's in retail or not, it's like, it's your fault that you lost your job. Elitist victim blamer moment here, because you used self-checkout all those years, or you supported all these companies that did it, and so therefore it's no surprise that your job would get replaced by automation too. And so therefore you have to have that awareness to protest it and not to go to those places or not to use it, because if you do that, then you're supporting a system that could eventually invalidate you and make your job obsolete too, regardless of whatever field it's in. You have to have that self-awareness, which often people don't do. And so therefore it's also similar to, like, I don't know, you could like say, like, you support these big companies, like, oh, you know, Elon Musk is so bad, supposedly, like, you always hear this in the media and stuff, but then you don't have to use Twitter, and you don't have to buy a Tesla, and you don't have to do all these things. So you help build these people up, and then you complain about it later, like, oh, this big evil corporation like Apple or whatever, and it's like, you don't have to buy their phone, they do all these horrible things, but then you don't have to support their company. So it's like this helpless little sheep, you know, being led to the slaughter syndrome, like, oh, woe is us, this big company is doing all these terrible things, and also, you know, we're going to fucking still support them and buy their products. And I always hate that. That's another good point in this, like, all these ads that are basically like, all right, so that wasn't very productive. We lost to that one and the other Burger's Lantern, but those were at least more enjoyable to do. Yeah, we'll try to mix around with these a bit and maybe make some other ones. I don't really know what to do with this right now. Otherwise, we could do another 10k draft too to try to redeem how shitty we did in the other one. But no, it's like when you see an ad and it's like they tied the thing together to like some sort of social cause, like, oh, buy Gillette razors and we'll give X amount to charity or whatever, right? The reason why that's so tasteless is because any normal situation, like, you might say, oh, they're doing a good thing. They're not doing that to sell their product, but it's exclusively tied to their product. The same person who owns the company or the people who own it or make money from it could just as easily in their own private life and private time quietly donate to some cause that they believe in, right? And that's fine. But instead they got to make a big thing of it. Not only do they got to make a big thing of it, like they could just say it in some press release, like, oh, look, we donated the, but no, we separated. The individual can donate, but it has nothing to do with the company. It's just that they happen to make so much money from the company that then they feel like doing that. But no, not only do you want to take credit from it, but you want to actually make that part of your ad campaign, like, oh, look at what we're doing, look at how we're donating. So you're reducing your donation and your good gesture, which would otherwise be good, to something very cynical, because it's like, oh, we want to tie this to the thing, and oh, you should buy our product because we donated such and such to a certain cause that you believe in. And so that makes it so silly, because then it becomes the contents of that, like, oh, then you should buy the products of which company does that best, which one does the social cause the best or give the most to it, and then it's an endless cycle. Or, you know, you should just keep that out of it and say, oh, we will buy an inferior product for more money just because, oh, it's the cause is going to charity. Like, it's so stupid. The one thing I never do here is I never take advantage of the whole buy 10 packs during the expansion to get like a guaranteed golden pack or whatever it is. It always says that up at the top there. Like I said, I almost never buy packs even, period. We could have maybe saved all these and done the, that is kind of a cool one, the little green outline silhouette of a dead body. Who needs a detective game when you have this? More like, who needs just chatting when you have this? Because I almost play it like that now. Let me see. Yeah, this cursor actually almost looks exactly like the BlueStacks one, now that I think about it. That's like an Android emulator, so maybe they just use like a base default one. Or maybe BlueStacks just copied this one. That's actually an interesting thing. One of the many things we've accused this game of copying lately, like the whole Castle Nathria, murder at Castle Nathria. They made the name so similar that it kind of makes it seem blatant. But no, let's look at the whole pack thing. If we go to that, it'll say it at the top somewhere. You have to purchase 10, not even open 10. So all the ones that I've opened like from there. But I normally never like to spend gold on this, and there's not even anything particular that I'm looking for. Like, how long can you play a card game for the first time while resisting the meta? But if you're enjoying what you're doing, why does it matter? But then again, I do have to mix it up a little bit. That's not even a question of, oh, my collection's not good enough to mix it up. It's just more like I'm too lazy to do it. But we could try a lot of these other ones, and then I'll try to organize these a little bit too. Like, there's so many in here that are just kind of random, but that shows you, like, how long ago did I get this added in here, right? Or like, I've never played as it, or maybe I did it just to try to do a daily quest. But like, we've been using these same ones like a million times, and you can kind of tell based on the pictures, like hexproof, 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 dinosaur, dinosaur, like probably dinosaur. Like, you keep doing the same ones over and over, like for fucking ever. and never get bored of them. It is really a real talent. And I also never get annoyed by, you know, like, oh, I'm losing the majority of games because, oh, I want to make a meta deck and free to play. Like that doesn't work on me because of the means argument that I always talk about. Like, you know, relative to what you're using, right, it's fine. You're only losing because of that, so you don't really care. You'd rather, you know, lose your way than win some kind of contrived meta way. Okay, see you tomorrow.